Machandra from the NR Sports Show. This is episode 748. Joined by returning guest Kayla Anderson. She's not a stranger to the show. She's been here before. She's an Emmy award-winning sports journalist reporter out of Nashville, Tennessee. She covers baseball, baseball, football, hockey, anything. She's really inspiring. She works hard every day, and I'm glad to have her back on the show. First of all, Kayla, how are you doing? How are you and your family doing? And it's good to catch up again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on the show. Doing well. We are starting to get into the summertime. It's getting warm here in Tennessee. I think it was like 78 degrees. And so I think you just have that natural energy and you're just ready to go. And we've got hockey playoffs right around the corner. I hope you are doing well too.
Yeah, we're doing good. Just trying to stay active with the workouts, and now I have a full team with me that helps out with the show, and I'm grateful to be in this position. We're at 748 episodes, like I said, working hard and grinding. So, first, I want to ask you. I just want to say congrats to Eddie George first, getting that coaching job. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh? So they're going to make it official tomorrow, but we found out on Sunday. Initially, we got an email on Saturday night, and it was an email that said there are some reports out there that Eddie George might be the next head coach at TSU. And we're thinking, no way, right? I mean, Eddie does so many other things. I mean, he does stuff on Broadway. He does acting. He's very involved with the Titans organization. He has a son that he, is getting and developed into going to the college level. So he's really a busy man. And we're thinking, really a head coach? Like we wouldn't put it past him, but we just didn't think that that was something he was thinking about. And then on Sunday, all these other reports came out, and then ESPN reported it, and then we got it confirmed through a source. And here we go. Eddie George going to be confirmed tomorrow by TSU, but he's going to be the next head coach for the Tigers, and it's really cool. It's exciting. We've clearly seen what Deion Sanders has done, and I know that Eddie doesn't have coaching experience, but he brings a lot of life experience in terms of the game. He brings what we hope will be a lot of notoriety to the program. I really think they just want a boost of energy at TSU. They have resources. I know that there are some guys in the league as well. So it's going to be interesting to see everything come together. We've already seen some reports about his staff as well.
Yeah. So before we get into what you're doing, but I want to ask. Obviously, like you said, Deion Sanders in Jackson State University. Do you noticing a trend where college teams are now focusing on getting former NFL players that never coached before into their systems? Is that where we're going now? Is it?
Yeah, I think we're in the experimental stage of coaching right now. We're seeing it in college as well. We've seen it with Michigan, some of these programs who are hiring former coaches and having success at the next level in terms of, the college level, even though they were just a player in the pros and, maybe in college, obviously, as well. And so I think it's a trend that they're experimenting with. Now, whether or not it works for long-term purposes, that's left to be seen. But I think, why not, right? I mean, if you have a guy like Eddie George or Deion Sanders who can bring notoriety to the program, who can fill the stands, and I know now that we're coming out of a pandemic, almost
Almost.
train, that we will have fans back in the stands. They're going to be able to do that with guys like this, and so it's up to them now to build a staff around them to try to build a successful program. I believe that Eddie can have success there if he has the right staff around him. But I think it is a trend. I think we'll see more players who are interested in dabbling in the coaching field a little bit do the same thing as Eddie and Deion have done.
Actually, I forgot another one. I'm a Cowboy fan, like you know. So Jason Wynn is another one who has a head
That's
coaching
right.
job now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Isn't he's the high school level, right?
Christian Liberty, I think it's called.
Yep.
Yeah, high school level. I mean, that's still I
Yeah.
think. Man, I'm looking forward to seeing what else is happening there. But I want to ask you for yourself. Obviously, I had you on last year. Obviously, all of us went through a tough time last year with the sports shutdown and not knowing what to do. A lot of unknowns. And for you as a reporter and a journalist, what have you learned from the past year, utilizing different platforms? And the last time we spoke, what have you learned from that year to now?
Yeah, and that's what this business is all about, right? And it's all about moving forward and learning new things. And even, 10 plus years in the business, every day I'm learning something new, but that's because I want to learn something new, right? It's not because I think I'm the best there is or I think there's nothing more to learn. That's what keeps this job exciting and keeps me wanting to do what I do, because there's so much out there that you can improve upon. And the pandemic really showed a lot of us that we can be even better than what we are, because with limited resources you really had to dig deep to find ways to put content out there. Maybe we had to explore new digital, avenues, which I know before you touch on social media now and then, you're on Twitter, but now it's like we've got two full-time digital shows
Yeah.
that we do now, in Nashville at our news station, because that's just their demand is there. So I think learning about just the new platforms that people are going to for sports was really beneficial in the pandemic. And I know I took advantage of the opportunity that we had to do shows and to do that kind of stuff. And now it's just something that is a daily thing and we have a lot of fun with. And then you also learn about not taking this job for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all get in a funk sometimes in this business and say, why aren't we here? Or why are we not at this level? Why aren't we not at ESPN? But I think the pandemic grounded some of us in the way that we're like, you know what? I'm just happy to have a job covering sports and knowing that sometime soon it's going to get back to normal, because you really do miss the interaction, and you really miss what this job is all about. And that's telling stories and being there for the fans to celebrate when their teams do well, and when their teams don't do well, be that connection, to say what's going wrong and how can it get fixed. And so that's the kind of stuff I learned during the pandemic. And I talking with a lot of other people in this business, I think they feel the same way.
Yeah, like I said, you're Emmy award winning reporter. You're one of the best out there, and I'm glad that we both connected. And I love following your career. It's such amazing what you're doing right now, covering Tennessee sports, and just keep it going. But I want to ask you about before we get to baseball and hockey. I want to ask you about the Tennessee Titans. What
Mhm.
what are you most looking forward to this season? Obviously, they made some moves, and the draft is coming up, so Titan fans should be excited. And obviously, Tannehill working on improving as always, and you have Derrick Henry. Man, this guy's this guy's a stud. And so, what do you as a reporter? What's it like just covering this team on a daily basis? And hopefully, you guys can go back into the stadiums this year again.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, so last year we were able to go to games, but it was in a very limited capacity. We were up in the press box. We were not allowed down on the field like we usually are pre and post game, which for me that's the most fun time, right? When you're walking around the field, you're watching the guys warm up, you're seeing players from the other team warm up, you get to report some things, but yeah, none of that. And so hopefully that gets back to normal. But I'm excited. I'm always excited to cover this Titans team ever since I arrived here in Tennessee. And I'm going into, it's crazy. This will be my fifth season covering the Titans.
Wow.
And it just, time has just flown by. And one thing that I always appreciate about covering this team is that locker room is always just a solid group of guys,
Yeah.
right? I mean, for the most part, there's there are a lot of leaders in that room, just guys that love to play football. And that's why I get excited every year to cover this team, because I know they want to do everything they can to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's going to be their goal every single year. So going into this year, there's question marks clearly on the defensive side of the ball. And I think, they tried to address some in free agency. So I think the big name that everybody's talking about is Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
And I know that we are all excited to see what he can do. Hopefully he is not hindered by the injury.
Yeah.
But I believe they probably did their due diligence in terms of, making sure he's good to go, else they wouldn't have brought him in and paid him if they didn't think that he'd be ready to go. So I think that's going to help in terms of getting some of that pass rush generated. But we're still a little skeptical about the defense, because Shane Bowen was technically promoted now, even though he was supposedly making most of the calls last year on the defensive side of the ball. There just seems to be a power struggle a bit with head coach Mike Vrabel and letting go of the defense and just letting those guys do their thing. I think he feels because he's a defensive minded guy, he just has to have so much say. But I just think he's good being a head coach and just, not dabbling too much on one side of the ball and just being the guy in the middle who's making everything run smoothly. So hopefully he lets Shane Bowen do his thing. They brought in Jim Schwartz, which is pretty exciting because Jim had spent time here under Mike Fisher. And Jim seems to be a guy who has a lot of respect around the league. He's a senior assistant defensive guy that they're bringing in. So how much he'll have, say wise, I don't know, but at least he'll have that veteran presence that maybe Shane Bowen can go to in terms of questions and just trying to get the defense back on the right track. So I think they're going to address some of the secondary needs in the draft. I think going out and getting a cornerback, even in the first round, is not out of the question. But the defense has to improve if that team is going to get to the Super Bowl or just get into a deep playoff run. So that's the biggest question mark right now, because offensively, I think this team is going to be pretty consistent. You lost Corey Davis, you lost Jonnu Smith, Adam Humphries, not really a big loss because he didn't really play much last year because of injuries. And so I think they addressed the wide receiver depth need in the draft as well. I personally feel like they might select the 22nd pick as a wide receiver if it's the right guy. But then again, it's John Robinson. We never know what he's going to do in the draft. So it's always just a big question mark. But overall, man, when you have a guy like Derrick Henry coming back, who has won the rushing title for 2 straight seasons, you saw his offseason workouts. The guy's doing push-ups with chains on his back, like they're how much heavy, I don't even know how heavy that is, but I mean, he's a ultimate beast. And it's fun because him and Ryan Tannehill have a great relationship. Ryan teased back at him and did a video of him doing push-ups on one of those resistance bands. It just, they have a lot of fun. They respect each other. And that's really what you want if you want that continuity again on offense. And I do think that they'll find that.
Yeah, I had actually, I interviewed Austin Eckler on the show 2 weeks ago from the Chargers. This guy, I think this is another guy you should watch out for. I'm not saying he's going to put up Derrick Henry numbers, but I think everybody should be looking at, for fantasy purposes, I think Derrick Henry, and then Austin Eckler, and he told me that he told me he's ready for the season. So I would put all. I don't know. I don't know where the fantasy thing lines up, but I think Henry obviously will be up there again, and then I'll put Eckler behind Henry if healthy.
Yeah, no, and exactly. If these guys can stay healthy, and that's really why Derrick Henry has been able to be such a consistent force, because he's been able to stay healthy. right? I mean, the guy takes care of his body like nobody else. I mean, I really would love to go behind the scenes in the off season and what his daily routine is,
Yeah.
because I bet you it's different from a lot of other athletes. And I'm not saying other athletes don't take care of themselves. I think Derrick Henry is on a whole different level.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree. As long as these guys are taking care of their bodies, I could see him being up there absolutely in terms of picking him in a fantasy higher up. I mean, man, I'm sure Derrick Henry's going to go quick. I hope he can sustain it.
Yeah.
I think he personally can, but a lot of miles on him in the last couple of seasons. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So before we switch gears to football, baseball, and hockey, I want to ask you this. Obviously, you just said the GM, um, they can always have something up their sleeves. So I know you've been hearing reports that the Falcons might trade their fourth pick, and Kyle Pitts will be there. Do you see an instance where, because you guys lost Jono Smith, do you see depending how the trade package is, do you see them trading up to get Kyle Pitts at number 4 from Atlanta?
Man, I mean, that would be that would be trading up big. But at the same time, Kyle Pitts is phenomenal. I mean, we've seen what he has done throughout the season and then in pro day. This is like a phenomenal athlete that, look, I mean, the Titans definitely need to boost the tight end room. They don't even have a TE. They don't have a tight end one. I mean, Jonu's gone. Michael Pruitt, which was not even close to a tight end one, he's gone. I don't really see them not addressing that. And like you said, these GMs have tricks up their sleeves. Who knows? I mean, I just won't put anything past John Robinson. It's all about the fit, right? I mean, if it's the right fit and they feel like it's the right move, they're going to do it. But I will tell you this, the Titans need to hit on the draft this year. They had a not so great draft last year. First round pick Isaiah Wilson, a complete bust, a sad story if you ask me. I don't even want to, I don't like to talk about it in a negative way,
Right.
because I think the man needs help, real serious help. It's just a real sad story. But on the Titans business side of things, I mean, it was awful. It was an awful pick. I mean, they got nothing out of it. And then some of their other guys, including Christian Fulton, who I think is going to be good, he was injured a lot of the year. And Darrington Evans was supposed to come in and give some relief to Derek sometimes. He was injured as well. So we just really didn't get to see a lot of these draft picks last year. And then the first round bust really just has me thinking they've got to get it right this year.
Yeah, I mean, I have an easy solution for you guys. Just give the ball to Henry the whole game.
Right? Yep, exactly, right? That's all you got to do.
Yeah, but switching gears to baseball, I'm excited. Obviously, baseball season's back, and we're like 2 weeks in already. It's crazy. So what are your surprises so far? Obviously, you cover baseball big time too, and what are your surprise teams, and what are your like shocks so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty early, and that's the one thing that I do miss. Living in Nashville, it's been so fun because sports is on the rise, and there are many pro teams, joining the ranks here, like MLS, and they're battling to get an MLB team here. So right now, it's funny because I kind of am like a drifter in terms of what I'm watching and who I'm following, because we don't have a team that we cover here. So the Braves are clearly the closest team to us. We saw what they did last year.
Yeah.
I love what they have in terms of a lineup this year. It seems like they get off to a slow start sometimes, but I feel like they have the pieces to do what they want to do. And it's a fun team to watch, I'll tell you that much. I mean, I actually enjoy watching the Braves. My husband's a huge Braves fan, so I kind of am forced to watch them anyway.
The Ronald Acuna guy. The Ronald Acuna guy is something special.
Isn't he phenomenal? I mean, if you're talking about a great player who's just fun to watch, and if you want to be a fan of just a player, that's definitely a guy that I would like suggest, because he's so fun to watch. I mean, he makes the game exciting. I don't know if you saw last night. I think, speaking of MLB, and just, I think the game really needs to continue to try to grow. And and try to connect with the younger generation. But then, they have something that happened last night in the Braves game like that. And I just feel like sometimes it pushes MLB back. It gives them a bad
Right.
name because sometimes these things happen and it's like, this is a no-brainer. Why did that kind of a thing happen, you
Right.
know?
I mean,
So
mhm. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
no, go on, go on.
No, like obviously that play. To be honest, to me he was out. Yes, last night. What did your husband think about that? And if he saw it, and what do you think they need to change? Do you think they need to change something where they can see in all equal angles for?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes though you think bringing in too much technology to the game takes away from it being what it is, right? Baseball, America's pastime. Um, I just feel like, I mean, nothing's going to be perfect, right? And I don't think we fault umps or refs or whoever it is in the game for making, maybe not the best call once in a while, but sometimes it's like, okay, come on,
Mhm.
right? It's like, this is not something that should have, I mean, this should have been clear as day. So yeah, it's baseball continues to, I continue to root for it because it's the sport. I just love baseball. I can't explain it because I played softball and grew up around the game. It's a natural love for me, right? But I still keep thinking like they're just not getting it right. They aren't growing at the rate they need to grow at. And
Right.
so little things keep pushing it back. And I just want the game to embrace some of these athletes, market them better, and so that these younger kids are interested in the game and it continues to grow. But I'm looking around at the other teams too, and it you it's crazy because the Cleveland Indians, I covered them for
Yeah.
3 years, and I watched Lindor and some of these prospects get called up. So I've followed the careers of a lot of them forever. And the Indians are just no longer anything that I covered. It's like they're all gone, right? So many of them are all over the place. But the deal with Lindor, man, it's crazy
I
because
I think to be honest, I think they could have kept him for the same deal what the Mets gave him for sure.
I think so too. And you just wonder, was Frankie wanting to go to a bigger market because Lindor is a really big personality. He is what I think a great ambassador for the game, and I think this might be a good thing, him going to New York, because guess what? When you're in New York, a lot of eyes are on you. You're in the national spotlight a lot more. Frankie was almost like just not exposed enough in Cleveland. As much as I think he was a great fit there and he did so many good things for that organization, I think New York will allow him to be a star.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. But obviously, what do you think? Who do you? Obviously, it's too early, but I gotta ask you about my Yankees real quick. Do you think? Are you concerned with? I mean, obviously, you don't cover them, but are you concerned how they're playing so far? Obviously, we always start off slow, but at some point they always kick up in the second half. So
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen a lot of the Yankees this season, and I know I'll be able to catch a little bit more baseball here soon. That's kind of my goal. I just haven't been able to watch as much in the past couple of weeks. But you made a good point. I mean, the Yankees are always one of those teams too that it takes a while for them to figure everything out. But then it's just like all of a sudden you're seeing like them win and win. And then you're talking about the postseason. And so I feel like it's definitely one of those things that could be the factor this year as well. It just takes a little while for these teams to kind of, come together and think about the weird I mean, spring training still wasn't normal, and it's still kind of like a different type of year. It's not completely like last season that was just very weird, but it's not absolutely normal yet. So I think you give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll turn things around.
yeah. So now switching gears to hockey. Obviously, playoff time's coming up soon. It's crazy how the season went quick. Obviously, Nashville Predators. They're getting ready. So, what are your thoughts on the hockey season so far, and how they uh, covered it? I mean, and then
Yeah,
what's it called? What's that word? How
like
how the season's going? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's different as well. The season shortened,
yeah,
and usually at this time you're starting playoffs,
yeah,
and now they're playing through like mid-May or the second week of May. So I'm kind of off in terms of that, right? I'm like, oh, it's playoff time. I
yeah.
keep on seeing these like photo memories pop up of me covering the playoffs. And I'm like, no, 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 not yet. So this year, I will give the NHL credit for getting creative and changing the divisions around. So you've got the all Canadian division because they couldn't come out of quarantine, right? You couldn't go in and out of Canada. So you got the Canadians beating up on each other, which Toronto has proven to be the one that is at the top. And then you got all these other divisions, and the Nashville Predators are in the Central, and I think the Central has been really fun to watch.
Mhm.
You've got some non-traditional teams like Florida and Carolina, like towards the top of the Central Division.
Yeah.
You got Tampa Bay, last year Stanley Cup champs. They're at the top of the division as well. And then you got teams like Chicago and Dallas who are still battling with the Preds for that fourth spot. But what has been so exciting is because these guys play each other now all the time, because it's usually two set series. And then, they'll go on the road and they'll play them two times and they'll come back. So they play these guys all the time now. So they hate these teams, right? They hate the Dallas Stars. They hate the Chicago Blackhawks. It's really making for some great rivals within the division because you see them so much. And the play is just, in my opinion, so much more physical. And it's just more fun to watch because you are building those natural rivalries because that's all you keep playing these guys and just probably gets frustrating. You have to see them time and time again. But yeah, the Predators are kind of an underdog story right now, and that conclusion is yet to be written. But they started off the season not great,
Mhm.
and they have, John Hines is in his second year, his first full year though as head coach, and they have had injury after injury after injury, and these are two major players, not just fourth liners. These are two some of their top line guys, and they have been able to bring up these guys from their Milwaukee AAA, team,
Mhm.
and they've stepped right in and made a huge difference. They've brought the play of these veterans up. They're physical, they're hard to play against. We just saw a game against Dallas last night. It was just so much fun to watch. And majority of this team is really young, but for some reason it's working. They've won, I believe, 12 out of their last 15, and they just beat Dallas last night for the fourth time in extra, time.
Oh,
So it's really fun to watch right now. They didn't do anything at the deadline except for a minor deal where they brought in a player. So they believe in this team and right now, and they think that they can make a run in the playoffs, considering they're probably going to get some of their star guys back. So it's been fun to watch hockey this year. I watch most of the Central Division, obviously, but it's different. But I'm just excited that we're going to have playoffs, and I think it's going to be a really good run for some of these teams.
mhm. So a couple more things before I let you go. I want to talk about women in sports real quick. What do you like about the involvement and the growing in women in sports? Obviously, you saw Sarah Thomas, first female ref in the Super Bowl. Sarah Fuller being a first female to kick a field goal in the Power Five conference, and you see now females coaching male sports. And what's it like just to see the growth of it?
Yeah, it's phenomenal, right? And it seems like it happened overnight, and it's cool that we can now point to some of these women and be like, okay, they're actually now head coaches. They're actually coaching or roughing in the Super Bowl. The Sarah Thomas story, I met her 2 seasons ago when I covered the Titans in Carolina, and it was just when she really was starting to get notoriety for what she was doing in terms of being a well-respected woman in the league. And I went up to her and just introduced myself. And I don't do that to anybody. I've covered so many professional athletes in my career, so
Yeah.
many big names. I don't care about any of those people. Like, that's just my job. But to have a chance to like shake her hand because she understands what I go through as a woman in this business,
Mhm.
I had to take the opportunity to get a picture with her and just, tell her how much she is an inspiration for women in this business. And so that was really a cool moment. And then to see her in the Super Bowl this year, it
Yeah.
was seriously, I got chills. It was so cool. And then Sarah Fuller, my goodness. I
Mhm.
mean, I was able to be at the game when she kicked the field goal.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was up in it was one of the first games that we were able to cover at Vanderbilt
Nice.
because, they just didn't let us for most of the season. And when she did that and I saw the reaction from her teammates, I had a tear in my eye. I mean, it was one of the coolest moments. She made history first and foremost, but the way her teammates reacted, the genuine excitement they had for her, it was a really cool moment, and one that I think is going to change history. It might not be overnight, but slowly we're going to be seeing more of that, because she can hold her own, right?
Yeah.
She's not just a girl kicking, some little field. I mean, she was in there, making a difference. So I think that story was great to follow as well. It's been a great, you know, end of last year and started this year for females in this business.
Did you interview her after the game or?
Yeah, we interviewed. So we haven't been able to do anything in person,
Right.
but yeah, we interviewed her after that game on Zoom, and she's just like so great to talk to too, because she's very humble, and she doesn't consider herself different, right? She's just like, I'm one of the guys, and that's just how it is. And so she's a great representation, in terms of women in this business. And I'm sure she'll go on, and if she doesn't have a career in soccer or something like that, I'm sure she'll do some broadcasting and probably call games one day, right? So
Yeah.
she's got a bright future.
Yeah, that's amazing. And actually, I had Jen Welter on the show. She's another one.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was an honor speaking to her, and I learned a lot from that one. And I'm just amazed. I'm a big advocate in women in sports. My co-host, she's a female too, and I'm
Yeah.
a big advocate in women in sports, and I love it the way it's going. Um,
Yeah, your actually your co-host is actually, we have a connection. So I've been all over this country in terms of jobs, but my hometown is Spokane, Washington.
oh,
And it was probably my second full-time job in sports. I went back to my hometown of Spokane, and I was actually at the station that she worked for before she went on to do work with Gonzaga in the Pac-12. So she was at KXLY after I was there, a little bit after. But yeah, so we got some Spokane ties up there.
that's nice.
Yep.
Last two things here, real quick. Our team we partner with two companies. The first one is Epsilon X Cosmetics. That's my aunt's company, and we're trying. And the promo code is NR20. So if you're interested in those products, you go check it out. I'll send you the link. If your friends are interested, go check it out. And the other company we partnered up with, it's called Bucking Beards. It's a male's product for hairline, for the beard. If your husband's interested, or some other
Nice.
people are interested, the promo code is the same, NR20. I'll send you that link too. We're just trying to help them out so we can get more traffic for the show. And the last thing here, we're also part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach, obviously, and trying to get back into coaching. So
Yeah.
I think you know about this, right? We're part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation already.
Yeah. And I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the names on possibly being on Eddie George's staff.
Really?
That's what I read a report on that today. Now,
Oh,
not being solidified, but I had been looking at a list of potential names,
Yes, make
And
that happen. Make that happen, Andy George. We need him back.
right. So I just wanted to tell you that. That's kind of funny. Yeah.
All right, let me see this. I can reach. I'm connected with Hugh Jackson, so I can reach out to him.
Yeah, you should. You should be like, hey, Hugh, are you joining Eddie's staff? Because my goodness, man,
Okay.
we could break this on the air right now, right?
Amy Trash tweeted 8 hours ago that Eddie is considering a Hugh Jackson. So
There you go. There you go.
wow,
See?
that's amazing.
Yeah.
We had Amy Trash on the show too. So she's
Oh,
another.
she's phenomenal.
Yeah. But I just want to say thank you, Kayla, for coming back on the show. It's really inspiring what you're doing, and I'm glad to have you back. And I'm glad that we're connected, and I'm going to continue following your career. And we will like to have you back for a third time, so you can meet the full team of it.
Oh,
Hopefully,
yeah.
their schedules are hectic right now, and with Alyssa coming off from the March Madness thing, I think she's trying to lay low for a little bit, but.
Yeah.
So hopefully the full team is available soon. But just keep up the great work, Kayla. You're such an inspiration, and you and your family stay safe. And I can't wait for the draft. So there you go.
I know. Me too. Hey, keep up the good work, man. Always hustling. I appreciate that more than anything in this business. That's what I appreciate. So keep up the good work, and hope your family's staying safe too, my friend.
Thank you. And that wraps up episode 748. There you go. All right. See you.